James Cullen is 16 and about to leave school. When cutting class, he dreams of doing something rather more exciting. Leslie Wakeman is 15, and though he is studying geography at school in Hackney, his thoughts are much further afield. Scott Martin is 18 and unemployed, but he helps out in a market stall in Petticoat Lane selling ladies' shoes. Jamie Claridge is 18, but work is hard to find in London's East End for a budding motorcycle mechanic. They're all members of the Imps, Britain's premier youth motorcycle display team. But this is no county show. They're preparing to make a first crossing of one of the great sand dune deserts of the Sahara on motor tracks. They're brought together by team leader Roy Pratt, an education welfare officer well used to dealing with the problems that face young people in depressed inner city boroughs like Hackney. From the housing estates of Hackney, Roy Pratt plans to take 6 youngsters on a journey which will present them with a challenge and show them that there is a world outside. The town of Gardaya in central Algeria, 50 hours continuous travelling south from London, is the first place on the trip where the boys can stop, look around, and get some sense of a completely different way of life.
What is the vegetable? I wonder if you can just eat them, you know what I mean? Yeah, you can. Like some of the people you see, like really poor. Do you know where they live? And then it was just like little huts and nothing in there, just where they sleep. Now it seems like as if none of them have got any money or anything. Don't know why they survive.
All the men are dressed in sort of baggy trousers, really down to their knees. And like all the women, you don't see any parts of their body except one eye. They're just looking for one little gap.
That's if you're lucky to see women.
Yeah.
Of course, all you see is just boys and men everywhere, and there's no girls. It's as though they ain't allowed out on the streets or something. It seems unbelievable that a country's got no girls in it.
I'm English, I don't understand. What? I'm English, I don't understand.
You're talking about you're dashing for food.
Yeah, let's go inside, top one. You're a hard man to bargain with. Thank you.
Oh, look at that.
Roy Pratt has been planning this expedition for 2 years. 6 members of the Imps will be backed by a team of adults. Dave Taylor, the motorcycle display rider and now road safety expert, is to lead the support team, and the only woman in the party is Constance Dennehy, the expedition doctor. An interpreter, 2 photographers and 3 driver mechanics are there to help, and everyone has dipped into his own pocket to pay for the trip. However, things aren't going quite to plan. Roy and his drivers have had to make a 1,000-mile round trip to Algiers and back to fetch the trikes which have been unaccountably stuck in customs. Some days late, the expedition meets up in El Golea, a town on the edge of the Grand Erg Occidental, the great western sand dune desert, which they plan to ride across from one side to the other. Beneath the ruins of the fortified citadel, the expedition finally heads for the outlying dunes of the Erg to set up base. By the time they get here, the problems with customs, bad weather, and minor breakdowns have put the project way behind schedule, and some of the adults are drained and exhausted. Others are demoralized and edgy. The boys, though, are raring to go.
It's a challenge, isn't it? Like, you look at it the way that you're going out there, you might not come back in the sort of thing. Like, you could get lost out there and you could be riding about for days and that, and that's it, you know. That gets you going. You think of that and you think, oh yeah, I'll have some of that, you know. Right, even though there is that risk.
When you've got the canvas off, could you send it up to the front vehicle, please? I can put bike parts on that then for safety. Rest it there while
Scott wants some more help this end.
Okay, all right. Okay. Right. Stand by.
Let's get this end down.
I think we're very lucky to be on this trip. When I first heard about it, I couldn't believe it, you know, but like with Roy, he talks a bit and that, and you take it so sort of thing, like, yeah, all right, it's talk at the moment. But like when I actually see all the stuff and all that, I thought, God, it's a trip of a lifetime, really. Whenever you're going to come out this far into the desert. If I wouldn't have been on this trip, I'd never would have been out here. So I just grabbed it all hands open.
When it first started off and that, you started hearing about it, you got excited. But when it comes closer to it and that, then in a way you really get prepared to be lost somewhere, kind of thing. You start planning things, what you're going to do. And you don't, in a way, get so much of a buzz where you know somebody else has done it, kind of thing. This way, you know, nobody's done it, and it's more of a challenge to do it.
Don't take all day.
Okay, Dan.
Originally we had planned to go straight across over to Beni Abbas, but for reasons of resupply, safety, confirmation of navigation, we are going down here. And we're calling it a fort down here, an old Foreign Legion fort. Then we're going to make contact at an oasis north of Timmy Moon. Then we're going to cut across to get in sight with various wells here, and then travel north to Beni Abbas. Now this makes a route something like 90 kilometres longer. That means we can maintain better contact with the support party. Thanks, James. Any questions thus far? Good.
There are 4 poisonous snakes in this area. I've been in touch with the leading people in Britain about them. They have advised me not to take any anti-serum. It's extremely unlikely that anyone will get bitten. The greatest risk comes from things that that they climb into. A sleeping bag, a boot, things that are left lying around. So it's important that before you put on any clothing, you shake it out so that you're quite sure there's nothing in there that's going to cause you any harm, okay?
As the day for departure gets nearer, some of the adult helpers are more in need of briefing than the youngsters.
The support crew's function is an essential one. In order to make up better time than we were going to make, because of the shortage of time now, Timmy Moon's going to be a resupply point. So we've definitely got to meet there. We've got to meet up at that fort for reasons of safety, even if we don't get in close contact.
If you're really stuck, 3 bikes are broken down, you've got a broken leg, what are you going to do? And how long do we wait at that fort before you come along?
All of that will be written down once we've plotted the course. I cannot plot the course till I know exactly what speed we're going to make on these dunes.
Regardless of the course, if we get to that fort and you haven't arrived for 2 days, how long do we leave it before we do something desperate?
8 days.
8 days?
Yeah, because we've got survival equipment for 10.
With a broken leg?
You can't work on that basis. If we've got a broken leg, we will get that broken leg to that road and make contact with it.
Well, how far would you be from the road at the furthest point? You still don't know, you've not worked it out.
I told you, approximately 40 miles.
So, why haven't you worked out the route till now?
Oh, I've got my route.
Why can't you tell us that?
Pardon? Because it's all going to be altered. Because at the time we're starting, the amount of time we have left to do the crossing and requirements of other people who want to meet us.
So when are you going to tell us about that?
When I've worked it out, and I can't work it out until we've carried out trials tomorrow to get some guesstimate as the amount of time and speed we can maintain on this type of terrain. We've nothing in Britain to compare with it.
So we've got to start again tomorrow?
No, we haven't got to start again tomorrow. I'm giving you the rough details now, and I'll give you precise bearings and everything tomorrow. OK, if I can press on, because the reason I'm pressing on at this pace, I need time to get down to the sat-nav equipment, the radios and the navigational plot. If I've got to keep knocking off to inform people what's happening, fatal, I'm never going to get ready on time. I need to be free.
We don't know nothing about this yet. I mean, like, you keep saying you're going to tell us on the boat. I asked you to tell me, you didn't tell me. We don't know nothing about nothing so far. We really don't.
What would you suggest we did?
Well, I want to know all the things I've asked already. And you've always said tomorrow. We need to know now. We need to know exactly what's going on, how long we leave it, what sort of response we've got to give to flares. You know, I'm really worried now.
There's no way that we are going to leave unless you've got that information 100%. We haven't had sleep for 3 nights. I want to know what I'm doing when I plot the new course. Okay. There's no way am I going to be pressurised into giving you a course that may not be accurate.
I'm pressurising you. I'm just saying we need to know, and we're going to know before we leave. Because all this tomorrow's got to end tomorrow. We've got to know tomorrow.
The first day's trial of their 250cc Honda all-terrain vehicles, the Big Reds, which they've ridden before on tarmac and in mud, but never over sand. Is this the end of the Camel as we know it?
When you're riding on like bumpy stuff like that, you know, you just can't sit down, and Roy was sitting down all the time. And of course, if you sit down, you're taking all the bumps up your arse and through your back. Yeah. You know, so you've got to stand up and just like ride with the bumps and just go with the bumps, otherwise you just bounce all over the place, you know.
Out of nowhere comes a sandstorm.
It's frightening in a way because you could be out there and one of them sandstorms come and you can't see the bike in front of you, and you start thinking like, well, what happens if I get lost? You're stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's just the thought of that you could get lost, and it makes it that more exciting. But that's what it's all about, I
think. It was unbelievable. Suddenly a whole heap of sand come. We was just like in the middle of nowhere. It was just like getting lost. Like, I mean, we was only a couple of feet out, but I mean, you couldn't see us. We couldn't see the campsite. Like, it's a thing of a lifetime in Sandstorm, I reckon. Because nobody else does that sort of thing. I was a bit scared though.
The night before the attempt, spirits are high. Dave Taylor and 2 other adults have gone out along the edge of the desert on a reconnaissance.
Good God, you don't think I'm going to fill that, do you? Wishful thinking that is, Scotty. Could I have your potatoes back when you've finished with them for tomorrow, Stu?
The hope is that Dave may have found a suitable rendezvous site for tomorrow night.
Get caught in the storm?
Yeah, fantastic, wasn't it? How about you?
The ride was out at the time.
Eh?
The ride was a couple of miles out.
Amazing stuff. It's really powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quite frightening, that.
Is the fort occupied?
Fantastic, yes.
It's occupied, but not by the military.
By the Bedouin.
It's really quite something, that fort.
Family of about, I don't know, it's about maybe 6 or 7 people. It's
Good
right in the
point
middle of
to go
nowhere. I mean, it really is bloody hard to find. There's
But does that piste actually go to it, or do you have to come off the piste?
If you just came across that road, you wouldn't even know you'd crossed it.
No.
Yeah.
Because it's just a track. In fact, we got lost.
And there's tracks everywhere.
There's a whole
as well.
series of tracks, and there's a whole series of quite well-marked tracks that have
Sand
been done by...
tracks,
No,
not
they're-
rocky.
Stone,
they're
yeah, it's
all
rocky.
rocky.
Well,
Very
the
rocky.
rock's a problem because you're going to hit a lot of rocks, and
Yeah.
you know, although you go along at 50 mile an hour, if somebody falls off at 50, they ain't going to get
Yeah,
up.
well, there's no way we're going to do that because it's going to be loaded.
It's going to be
But-
real slow stuff.
Did they just say they can't recognise the road?
We lost the bloody thing we thought we were supposed to be following. You know, and there's this sort of mountains coming out, and Dave was saying, well, if the road isn't between here and those hills, then we're in dead lumber. And then finally we saw just saw a road sign, but because there's so little traffic, you don't really realise you're there.
Well, we just have to not get lost.
Yeah.
So let's just go through our side again. 4 o'clock, we'll light the tyres. The strobe goes up at 6 o'clock, 1800 hours, sorry, 1800 hours. The strobe goes up, comes down half an hour after darkness.
Well, I think we should decide a different time rather than half an hour after dusk.
1930 hours.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's better.
okay.
So it's running for an hour and a half.
And then the next morning at daybreak, we light the tyres again. And the same again that evening.
Yeah. That's providing we don't get to you
Yeah.
that evening.
Yeah, but just to be sure that we know exactly, you know what we're going to do, we know what you're doing. That's magic.
Come on, gentlemen. About 8 minutes. Gotta make a move. Need some rope. Need some rope.
2 years of preparation have gone into this moment. The Guards Regiment, who attempted a crossing in 4-wheel drive vehicles, foundered only 30 miles in. A Durham University expedition proved the viability of these three-wheelers on a successful but much shorter north-south crossing.
OK, now who's riding in what order? We'll change as we go along. 1, 2, 3. Then Scott, and we'll change as we go.
Now a group of East End kids, average age 16, prepare to attempt something no one has ever achieved on motorised vehicles before. Roy Pratt, 4 boys and a freelance photographer head off into the unknown. At a discreet distance, our own small film crew will follow them on the same kind of trikes, undertaking exactly the same journey and facing the same problems. No one knows how much fuel the trikes will use in this terrain and the extent they may have to deviate from their line of sight route. The radios have already been found not to work, so contact with the support party will be a problem. The best the support party can do is attempt to keep parallel with the crossing party by following the desert road that skirts the perimeter of the erg.
Doesn't he look like a bod? Paul, put your goggles up.
You can see the slight dunes there with some growth on them. I estimate that we're working in this little white hollow here at the moment.
So we travel from there.
Yeah.
Where are we now, roughly?
I reckon we're on the edge of this
Over
here.
over there.
Yep.
Miles.
So I don't think we ought to stay too long. Things to watch out for are on this plateau stuff, sharp rocks and plants that have been broken just above the roots, and you've got the sharp prongs and thorns sticking out. They'll break a tyre and we're in dead trouble. okay? So use the same ride discipline. That was going really quite well.
In the same order.
Well, change order a bit to accept Scott. No, somebody else come up to number 2. Any other questions? Right, now we don't want any amateur dramatics, people falling off. As you noticed, I didn't. So don't you do it.
I think you've walked most of the way, Roy.
Be quiet. And try and secure your stuff at least as well as mine. Thank you very much.
I've got a lot of respect for the man because for what he does. Everything he does for kids. He never does anything for himself. Like now, the crossing, he's doing it because like obviously it's not been done before. But his main object is to get kids out here to see our expressions on our face, and that makes him like he's achieved something.
Each trike is loaded with 2 4.5-gallon jerry cans of either petrol or drinking water, and food, cooking equipment, clothes and tent. Each rider has a first aid kit and comprehensive survival equipment in case he gets lost. A very real and frightening possibility. The stoves use the same fuel as the trikes, petrol, and each pair of riders must share cooking and a tent. Temperatures over 80 during the day fall to below freezing at night.
Still needs a dash of salt.
Well, listen, old boy, if you go and get the old salt, I would have stuck it in the old pot.
You can nip down to the corner shop and get it. It's 550 miles that way.
I'll be back for tea then. Where you're so used to riding a 2-wheeler, if you crank it round the bend, lay it down, you put your foot out, and you go to do it on that, and you've got to be careful because the back wheel will run straight over it, so you've got to lean right over, you know. Sometimes you go along, you go into a bend, and the back wheel flies up near one of the wheels, and you go all over the place. It's good though.
It's like when we're in England, you think, oh yeah, if you get lost, all you have to do is this. But when you actually get out there, it's just sand everywhere.
We've never had a bigger area to play in and ride around in.
Of course, usually we're stuck down to a little field or something like that. But here it's just miles and miles of open space.
Position, gentlemen, seems to be this. If our navigation is correct, we're still on the piste heading for Fort MacMahon. As you see, we've come to a junction here. In 1964 someone put a signpost there and hasn't painted it since, so that's no help to us. The main problem that we have at the moment is fuel supplies are getting low. So we've got 2 of us on reserve. Scott went on to reserve first. What I propose to do is travel along the piste until Scott runs dry. When that happens, we will all stop, fuel up 2 machines, and send a recce party ahead to locate our exact position, get fuel supplies, and get back onto us. Probably have some volunteers for that, won't we?
Ahead, Fort MacMahon, an old French Foreign Legion stronghold, which the support party reaches thanks to their 4-wheel drive vehicles. In what seems the middle of nowhere, driver Mickey Sparks and interpreter Paul Blezard make contact with a Bedouin family who live here. They put up smoke signals in the hope that they can be seen by the incoming Duneriders.
Oh, I mean, we've been having fun with the transcat,
Yeah.
you know, going out there.
But these are unbelievable. It's like Mount Snowdon on top of Mount Snowdon. And as I say, the angle was incredible. But, I mean, so I came off several times without any question about that, trying to find the route. And where I came off, these guys were going up the dune. And as you get to the top, you've got a shelf like that.
Right. He went up like that, up this hill slow. Yeah. And I was close behind him, and I got stuck on the hill. So I'll give you a little bit of throttle, and I just sort of rolled right the way back like that.
You see, it's such a dangerous drop on the other side, you've got to change your mind. You can't turn left, you'll topple off.
Yeah.
So they were going up, throttling round and down.
Bloody hell.
And you'll
Because it
think,
was too
where the
steep
hell's
the
he
other
going?
side.
He's going the wrong way.
Because it was just too steep the other side, was it?
Oh, well, some of them are like that. You know, you'll go up like that, nothing would actually stay on it.
5 degrees
You'll
on
fly.
that and we'd go down it.
The kids went down those, which were the ultimate.
So if you did go.
Anything beyond that, and you would have been a pilot. There's no question about it. You would.
Oh, it was a great laugh. Those dunes, some of the dunes, you go over a hill like that one.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it drops about 60 foot and it's sort of like that. What you do, you get up the top, and just as you go over, you kick it right up to all the gears. It goes down again like that, so you throw the front down and you come back down again. It's really great. It is a great laugh.
So we come onto flat land, right, because we didn't have a lot of petrol, so going up and down the dunes and that. Went onto flat land and he hit one bump, hit the other. Just flipped it over, done his leg in and that.
Scott was behind me. He got the bike off and like...
The bike was on top of you?
Yeah, like on my leg. It was just on my leg.
Which bit of the bike?
Back wheel, the wheel was.
Uh-huh.
It was upside down.
Uh-huh.
And Scott got away.
Uh-huh.
Everything was okay after that.
And is it sore now?
What? Yeah.
Well, you can walk on it.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad.
I'm limping a bit.
We'll have a look at it when you've sort of tidied yourself up. You haven't hurt your neck or anything?
No.
Okay.
How you for clothes?
Well, I've had these socks on here for 3 weeks, so I think I'll do for another 3 weeks.
I've had this t-shirt on for about, what, I don't know, man. We've been alright, really.
I just had the leathers and all that
That's
on
all
the
I've had
time.
on these. Yeah, Les.
What's open?
Hang on, keep you on there a minute.
Hello. Really up on the top.
Better to have a wash in cold water, innit, than not wash.
And going behind sand dunes and doing your business, and then you have to fill it in. The shovel you carry.
And then more of the old sand's blowing up, you know what I mean? And you don't need to wipe your bum because it gets sand blasted. That's when it gets a bit itchy.
Takes a lot of time though, doesn't it?
The second leg of the journey is mostly across a vast plain carpeted with thorns and sharp-edged stones. The tyres suffer 27 punctures, and they have only 4 spares. Then worse, Paul Rowe comes flying off his trike and snaps off the throttle lever with his thumb.
That's crazy. That's the most unlikely piece to go. Hey, what about a lever bracket clamped onto that?
Yeah, in there.
That would be almost the
yeah.
same. Let's have a look at all
Put it
the
on a
tools
spanner
we
and
got.
stamp on it.
How would you give it? Sounds getting into my dinner, you know what I mean?
Mate.
That won't wire on there.
Oh, look at that.
I think I've flipped this.
Well done. Oh, wicked.
There we go.
After 16 hours riding, the last 4 along a rocky track parallel to the road, the Dune Riders finally make it into the town of Timmy Moon. Timmy Moon, the only town on the southern edge of the desert, is a rose-red staging post for the ancient camel caravan routes out of Africa. Here it is possible to buy fuel and to take on fresh water. It's a chance too for Paul Rowe and Tim Reynolds to explore the back streets.
I wouldn't like to live here though. What, round here? No, I'd rather live in Hackney. Like, if I moved here, I'd know I'd get to know people, but I prefer to stay in Hackney where I do know people and I know my way around. You know, chicken.
You what?
That's dinner tonight.
Eh?
Dinner.
Yeah.
More alleyways, more steps. They've got no windows around here, it's just all shutters, isn't it? It's a weird place around here. There's no discos, no nightclubs, no bars. We're rich compared to this lot down here. I mean, they got nothing. I mean, look at it when they see our bikes. They just go mad, don't they? I mean, if a load of people moved over here from London, then this place would soon change, because the people with money change it into a different place altogether, wouldn't they?
At El Hajj Gulmain, north of Timmy Moon, the two teams meet. It's a chance to restock and for some to reassess.
Can I just have a show of hands as to how people feel? Who wants to actually complete this crossing and make it done? I do. Yes? What do you feel, Paul?
Oh, I don't want to do it.
No, it costs that some.
Yeah.
Okay, what about
I don't
you,
want to do it
Scott?
any more.
Yep. Okay. Jamie, Paul's having to withdraw because of his thumb injury.
Mm.
How do you feel about stepping in?
Yeah.
You happy with that?
Yeah. You get the doth bike though.
The crossing is going to take 3 days. But the thing is, we're not under pressure. When it comes to dark, we stop. Set up a nice camp, check our machines, have a good feed, a jolly good rest, good early start next day and soldier on. Roger, you've got a problem, haven't you?
Only minor problems. I mean, the Land Rover ran out of petrol the minute you disappeared over the sand dunes yesterday and we towed it here. And I mean, I broke an oil pipe out in the middle of nowhere and we managed to patch that. And, I mean, there's basics. We're never going to get the part round this area anyway. And I mean, we're keeping that going, no problems. And I mean, that's the most serious. So, we'll be where you want us to.
Hang on, have a little dig.
The final leg is to be the longest, at least 3 days of riding. Ahead lie the highest dunes, but no map can give any sense of their scale or degree of difficulty. The nearest the support party can get to the crossing group is about 50 miles, but they have little idea exactly where the trikes may be. The riders themselves are none too certain. The satellite navigator, carried on Roy Pratt's trike, is out of action. It proves to demand too much power from the trike batteries. They now have to navigate by dead reckoning. With all the twists and turns of their route, they fear their calculations may be wildly inaccurate. The only available map of the area, compiled from American satellite pictures, shows occasional clumps of palms amid the dunes. This oasis reveals something unknown even to the satellite. a village whose inhabitants have never before seen anything like this.
شوف اللي بعد كاع.
Thanks.
No. Yeah, take some from on the floor even.
Merci, monsieur. Wait, just have one, because it's being disrespectful if you don't.
It becomes like you don't do anything.
Good. Fun.
Yeah.
Honda.
What? It seemed a bit weird, you know.
The way they're friendly to us, because we're coming to there, but if they was in our position, they come into Hackney, they would just like get a blank sort of thing, you know. See?
Yeah.
They'd like feel very unwelcome.
Because, you know, nowadays there's not a lot of friendship between, you know, people don't know each other, you know. Like if you meet someone at first time in London, you have to be a bit dodgy, innit, you know. You have to treat everyone with a bit of caution, because you never know what you might meet. But people out here are so, like, honest and friendly, you know. It's really great.
It all looks so easy, but there are few who could do it. Even the youngest rider has had 8 years of experience riding motorbikes for the Imps. For their display teamwork, they may be leaping through hoops of fire or doing the scissors at high speed in an area only 500 yards square. Here at least they have rather more room.
To have a friendly bet as to where we are on this map. We started from here, El Hadju Domain. We were on a bearing of 290 for about 3 hours. Then we went to 285. 290 was that. 285 brought us down a bit. Who wants to have a guess at where we are? Pick a point.
I'd say we're about here.
Would you?
No, it can't be, because we passed all the palm trees and that, didn't we?
Well, the palm trees indicate a whole oasis, and we've only passed 2 oases on the whole journey.
About here.
Yeah, you
Well, it could be about here.
Well, remember where you think you are.
Yeah, around about there.
Me, I'm going to go just to the right of that high point, 424.
The kids are far from the security they know in London's streets. They're in a hostile environment, unforgiving of mistakes. The trouble is that they don't know how far they've come and can only estimate the distance traveled by time in the saddle. Using dead reckoning, they should measure how many miles they travel on each course setting. Although each trike has had a milometer fitted as an extra, 3 of these have been smashed in falls and the others are choked with sand. Uncertain as to where they are, the Duneriders can only be certain that the most difficult challenges lie ahead.
like to just like get a move on, because I think like the days and that we haven't done enough miles, like where you don't really know the proper mileage you've done. And we're over these dunes, you're always like up and down and that. I want to get on and get some miles behind us.
Adrift in a sea of sand. Fuel and water in plenty, but food running out fast.
Problem is this. As you know, we've had some difficulty with power supply for the sat-nav. So the last fix I was able to get was at Goulmain, which means we've been travelling blindly with the exception of Dead Reckoning. Now, Dead Reckoning for 1 or 2 days in reasonable terrain is accurate within 5 or 10 kilometres, which on this sort of vast terrain isn't bad. However, in this terrain, with these mammoth dunes going up thousands of feet, we've had to change course to make safe routes, and frankly the combination of errors that must have occurred in our Dead Reckoning must be enormous. Now, should an emergency arise, the support party know our course was 290, and therefore if anyone did get hurt and someone had to come and find us, it's best to stay as near to that course as possible. Now, we have an emergency pack of rations which would last 36 hours. We have sufficient water to keep us on the go for at least a further 10 days. So 12 to 14 days we could survive. We might feel a little bit peckish, but there's no panic on that. Now, you two happy keeping the course?
Yeah.
Because nothing would give me greater pleasure than to tell people back at the other end that it wasn't me that did the route finding, but you guys.
The support party reaches Beni Abbas.
I don't reckon he'll get to the road. I reckon he's got a huge range of hills to cross to get to the road. Just a matter of waiting now.
How long have they been out now? Is it 2 whole days?
Well, 2.5 days, really.
2 days plus that 4 hours.
They've got plenty of food anyway, so we've only got enough for 3 days. Full complement.
Well,
Plus the emergency rations.
Yeah. He said he didn't want us to call anybody out for 8 days, didn't he?
That's right.
That's an awful long time.
The one safe course to follow is south, down from the dunes towards the plain and hopefully the road. It's getting late on day 3 and they need to get a move on. As the food runs out and the fear of getting lost increases, the thought of any accident occurring becomes ever more alarming. At Beni Abbas, the support team can do little but wait, posting lookouts in all likely directions. The drivers, Roger Bowman and his brother Ross, take the younger team members in tow and do what they can to keep spirits high amid such a daunting landscape.
Basically, you've got to come out from over the hills there, or to the right of us slightly, because you've got flat plains down there, so you should be able to come along the flat plains better than the hills.
When do you reckon they'll get it?
I hope today. I don't know when. I just hope.
Scott Martin has somersaulted his trike at 40 miles an hour. It looks like his arm is broken.
Support at the back. Scott, I think I can pull this up over where it's hurting. Go.
Among the medical supplies Constance has made up for them are inflatable splints, ideal for such an emergency. Scott wants to get back in his trike and press on.
As long as he can get within about 50 miles of here, then he's quite close to the road if he just goes west. I reckon he'll come in and find the wadi and just come up it. So either he'll come up the wadi or he'll come up the road like he did before.
So how are we going to cover the road?
We'll go out and stop a couple of trucks and see if they've seen anybody. That's the best bet.
They're found, 50 miles out along the desert road, tired but triumphant.
I think we were all a bit elated, and we were on terrain like this, and we all opened up. It was my fault. I was at the front and trying to make it in good time. We said 3 days, and 3 o'clock today would have been 3 days. Then his back wheel hit a boulder and it just threw him.
I could move my fingers and everything, but that top bit I just can't move. And it was really, really painful. And then all my fingers started going numb and I couldn't feel them, but now
You can feel them now,
I can feel them all now. But it's still numb along the bottom, but I can feel it. It's not numb, you know?
Yeah, I know.
And on top of that, he's ridden 40 kilometres to get here.
Simon got up.
Now, I think we ought to get you away as quickly as we can, eh? See you at the other end. Well done, you finished the crossing. It's the important bit. The kids were fantastic. They've been pushing 10 to 12 hours riding a day. And it's not ordinary riding, it's really hard, tough riding. Your heart's in your mouth every time you approach the crest of the dune at a very steep angle. But Jamie and Scott have virtually navigated for 2 days. First 2 days I was getting very tired and very weary. You get a sort of snow blindness from the sand. And these two came up to relieve me and they did such a very good job. I encouraged them to carry on for the next 2 days. And they kept us on course no matter what. It shows they're worth something. I wouldn't mind being in a tight spot with them. When you consider, you know, where they come from, their various backgrounds and that, people want to be up there, see how well they worked. But very cool. No grumbles, not one argument, no complaints as I soldiered on. Absolutely magnificent.
And so after 60 hours riding, after crossing 400 miles of sand dune, the riders approached journey's end, Beni Abbes. The first team ever to make a successful east-west motorized crossing of the Grand Erg Occidental. It's a feat achieved thanks to their own skill and the suitability of their machines. But something else has got them here. A spirit which Roy Pratt has fostered among these kids, whose experience of life in the streets of London's East End might hardly have prepared them for an adventure in the heart of Algeria.
I think it might make me a bit more mature, like have a different outlook on things and that. But like now it's made me realise that you got to work together sort of thing, so I think in that way it has helped me a lot.
You've been out there, you've done something that nobody else has done really. So it's, in a way it's opening up your mind, you want to do more things.
Yeah, I do feel proud what I've done, really.